Hello my viewers and welcome back to our channel. Now Donald Trump's latest announcement has left many stunned. According to reports, Trump plans to introduce a policy that would essentially provide reparations to palm-colored people. Shocking, right? Specifically palm-colored boys and men. The reasoning behind this move, Trump believes the education system is catering too much to girls and people of color. Now, the proposal involves the Department of Justice taking action against schools and universities, fining them for prioritizing diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. Now, Trump claims these initiatives are discriminatory towards palm-colored men and boys. The fines collected would then be used to compensate palm-colored individuals who feel they've been victims of reverse discrimination. Now, this move has sparked intense debate, with many criticizing Trump's plan as a blatant attempt to undermine progress made in promoting diversity and inclusion. Historically, women, girls, and people of color have faced significant discrimination in educational institutions, and Trump's proposal seems to be perpetuating this inequality. We'll take a look into the reactions to Trump's announcement, including responses from those who support his plan. Let's take a look at the videos. I will be right back, and when I do, I'll share more information on this.
Donald Trump has just announced reparations for white people, for white boys and men. He thinks that our education system is catering too much to girls and people of color. He wants the Department of Justice to go after our schools and universities and take money from them because he doesn't think they're catering enough to white men and boys. In what area? Does he think they're not giving them enough money for men's sports and boys' sports, for scholarships, for their clubs, for their interests? Historically, women, girls, and people of color have been discriminated against in our schools and universities. And now he wants to highlight the boys and the men even more. MAGA women, you can't actually believe this, right? You don't actually think this is good for your daughters, right? That he's going to go after the school system because somehow they've catered too much to the girls. Good luck with that.
There it is, kids. In a nutshell, right there. That's what this all comes down to. That is the only reason Donald Trump is considered a viable candidate for post-white people. Because they are literally trying to hold on to whatever amount of power they think they have over people in marginalized communities. Because at the end of the goddamn day, there are a lot of white people who seem to believe that the rest of us are here to serve them or we're visitors. And that's it. That's it. Donald Trump is a viable candidate because he speaks to dumb white folk. He does. And he speaks their language. It's almost like all of his life, he has been gearing up to speak to poor, dumb white people with this same language. The true victims of racial discrimination. How? This is what happens when Merriam-Webster gives you guys a treat. All throughout my entire life, the definition of racism was this: discrimination against a marginalized community based on race. Normally reserved for people within marginalized communities, because your eyes can tell you how in the majority in the country, but also the victims of something that was invented by the majority of this country. How? It's the equivalent of inventing the Colt 45 and then being by it. That doesn't even make this. It sounded weird, didn't it? Exactly. Marginalized communities did not come up with the caste system as race. We didn't. We did not. It was rich white men who realized if poor people got together and decided to take them out, they could. So they came up with a system that separated poor, dumb white folks from everybody else. It is the LBJ quote in living form. Give the poorest white man someone to look down upon, and they will empty their pockets for you. On this app, in conversations, all across the media, everywhere, we have to make space for poor white aggrievement. Oh my God, the world is changing. I don't want it to change. Some of you really honestly still to this day believe that black folks is just waiting for the signal from Obama or Harris or somebody to take y'all to vote. And we looking at y'all like, what are you talking about? Kimberly Jones explained it to you. You are lucky. All we're looking for is fairness and not revenge. We've never wanted it. Mexicans don't want it. Asians don't want it. Jews don't want it. Native Americans, no matter how they feel, they don't want it. We want fair. How is it we can work in this country, pay taxes in this country, but our wants, our needs, our desires are not respected by the large white majority in the country? Why do we always have to stop progress to go back and pick up these poor, dumb white folks and tell them it's okay, we don't want you? Nobody wants your woman. Nobody wants your television. Nobody wants your pick-em-up truck. We don't want your Jesus. We don't want your Bible. We don't want your Sunday school. What we would like for you to do is recognize that this country runs on all people. Every one of us. We contribute to this country. But we have to stop progress. And you know what progress is? Just so that some of y'all that don't understand what progress is. Progress is when every single voice matters. That is what progress is. And I don't mean, oh, we can hear them. I mean, oh, we're going to take their feelings into consideration when we make laws and policies. That is what progress looks like. That's what it looks like. But do you know what stops that? The feeling that I want my country back. A lot of y'all are riding the nuts and the coattails of men and women you never were. Their work, their greatness, as you see it, you think you can hang on to it. White men did not build Western civilization. White men learned how to colonize. That was it. And they met people who were trying to be peaceful. And they met them with warlike tactics. And then they bragged about their warlike tactics as if somebody should be celebrating that shit. We want the words on the Constitution to actually matter. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Y'all can't even get past that first part. All men are created equal. That's why every day I got to get a message, or every week I got to get a message about how racist I am towards white people. That's the dumb. In the annals of my life, I've never heard something more asinine and dumb in life. I, a black man with only the power of my voice and the bill that I pay to get cell phone working so I can even make these, somehow have the power to make poor, dumb white people feel bad about themselves. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You giving me more power than Thanos and Darkseid combined. And that's why Donald Trump is always a viable candidate. That's why he was a viable candidate in 2016, 2020, and in 2024, because he speaks to your level of stupid. You don't have to think when Donald Trump speaks. You just have to follow. You don't have to think in terms of real versus what's going on in your head when Donald Trump says to you these things. And diversity, equity, and inclusion scare the shit out of you. Why? Because for some reason you think we want your... We don't. We never have. There's shit in your house right now that I could buy just with these that I have sitting on my dresser. What makes you think I want your raggedy? What I'd like for you to do is leave me the phone. Leave people that look like me the phone, as I and people like me, people from marginalized communities, literally try to get that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. If I'm created equal, why do you in my face about what I want? It's none of your goddamn business. As long as I'm not hurting anybody, I should be able to do what I want, right? But that's that thing. And Donald Trump speaks to that thing, that aggrievement, that thing that makes you feel like, oh my God, the world's changing and they're not going to center me. They shouldn't. They should not. The world goes on. Your little pet feelings should not outweigh millions of other goddamn people. That's why you demonize education, because education makes you realize you are but a speck of sand on a beach. That's why you demonize doctors and lawyers and scientists, the elite, because they have achieved something you can't. And that's why you cling so hard to an uneducated, unethical felon, because he speaks in your language. Well, let me help you understand something. You're a felon with him. Like Kimberly Jones said, you're lucky all we want is fairness. Because some of y'all wouldn't even survive if we wanted revenge.
Now, here we are again. Lying again. Now, why are you lying? Come on. Why are you lying? That's not what was said. And you know that's not what was said. But what was said was any school system teaching the wrong history or teaching students that they're in the wrong body and this, that, and the third will be fined, and the victims of them teaching the wrong history or that they're stuck in the wrong body, those people, let's just say my little boy or your little little girl goes to school and they tell them that they're in the wrong body and that they are a little girl, then therefore my child, my little boy, would be a victim and he would get paid. So it's nothing to do with women. It's nothing to do with the color of anybody's skin. It is pretty much, I ain't gonna say pretty much, it is to do with anyone. Anybody. Black, white, woman, boy, girl. Make sure the schools are doing their job. Don't teach fake history, CRT. Don't tell kids that they're in the wrong body. Be fine. But if you do, you're going to be fined. But stop spreading misinformation. And Trump's your president. Get over it. Like, it's not going to change anything no matter what you say or do. You can't change a vote or anything. Everybody's done voted. It's over with. Go cry somewhere else. Go make up somewhere else about somebody else.
You and I both know full well that it's got nothing to do with reparations. This is merely an excuse for them to come take the $800 or so billion that colleges and universities have in endowments. They're going to say, you hired the person that we don't like. You should have hired this other person. Now we're going to confiscate your endowment. Colleges and universities on average have about $1 billion a pop in endowments. 839 billion, 850 billion, somewhere around in there total across the country. They want that money. It is nothing more than a money grab. Period.
Everybody's mad that Donald Trump is attempting to get reparations for white people. But what I don't see is black people turning and looking at Democrats who said reparations is something we couldn't afford, or looking at reparations somehow is wrong because it doesn't help all Americans. We can't do anything that's just for black people, and anything you do for black people is gonna help all Americans. Democrats, why, if Donald can do it for them, why couldn't you do it for us? And that's the question that we need to be asking. That's what we need to be mad about. A lot of y'all are not pro-black. You're pro-Democrat. And you use Donald Trump's racism to rile up black people while not asking the Democrats to do anything at all. I'm not supporting Donald. I'm just saying, at what point will we not stop and say, if the Republicans can do this for their people and we support the Democrats at the level that we do, why won't they do anything for us?
Now, in a video posted across social media platforms, President-elect Donald Trump announced reparations to Palm-color Americans, labeling them as victims of racial discrimination in coloration to education policies. Now, in video posted days after Trump was elected the 47th president of the United States, claimed he will pursue federal civil rights cases against schools that continue to engage in racial discrimination and persist in unlawful discrimination under the guise of equity. Now, Trump also threatened the budgets of colleges and universities, saying he would tax their endowments and issue fines. It is said that a portion of the seized funds would then be used as restitution for victims of these illegal and unjust policies that hurt our country so badly. Trump said, colleges have gotten hundreds of billions of dollars from hardworking taxpayers, and now we're going to get this anti-American insanity out of our institutions once and for all. We are going to have real education in America. Social media users reacted to Trump's rhetoric. The second season of this reality show just scares me minute by minute. Biden's investments in HBCUs will be gone. Pell Grants gone. Grants to schools to fund special needs services gone. Another one wrote, and Palm-color people, if they think they will get reparations, money will be going into Trump's pocket. Now, the video correlates to Trump's idea of eliminating the Department of Education, which he discussed heavily on the campaign trail. According to the Washington Post, the president-elect continuously promised to return the education responsibility to the states. State and local governments have been responsible for providing nearly 90% of school funding. Also, the DOE does not identify curriculum or have a hand in most school policies. It administers federal grant programs such as the $18.4 billion Title I program that gives funding to high poverty K-12 schools and the $15.5 billion program that assists with the cost of education for students with disabilities. The $1.6 trillion federal student loan program is also supported by the department and sets rules for what colleges must do to participate. However, to choose the department, which was established in 1979, Trump would need congressional approval, which is unlikely. Now, President-elect Donald Trump's upcoming second administration has people on the edge, wondering what he will implement next. According to this resurfaced video, it sounds like Trump is planning to bring reparations to the U.S. federally, but it's far from what we consider reparations. Now, different people on Twitter have interpreted his promises as reparations for Palm-color people who have suffered from racial discrimination or DEI teachings like critical race theory. Trump announces reparations for Palm-color people. He says he will ask the Justice Department to penalize colleges that consider diversity, equity, and inclusion, and fine them so he can pay restitution to Palm-color people who he considers the real victims of racial discrimination. Keith Boykin tweeted, now, talking about reparations, Black Americans have longingly awaited their turn for slavery reparations. The U.S. government has given Japanese families placed in internment camps during World War II and American families who lost loved ones during 9/11 reparations. But when it comes to Black people, the government still stalls. I would like to hear from the Black people that voted for him because they felt he would provide tangibles for Black Americans and believed he would consider reparations for Black Americans. And their argument was always he gave money to HBCUs, which isn't true. Another user on X tweeted in response to the video. Now, others believe that reparations was not Trump's intent at all. Go to the search tab and search for Trump reparations for Palm-color people. It's the new talking point that they're trying to make go viral. Nowhere did Trump say anything about giving reparations to anyone. He wants to end all racial discrimination practices, disguised as DEI, a user on X tweeted. Now, one of the key points that the Pamkala lady said in the first video is that Trump's proposal is essentially a form of reverse discrimination, where he's prioritizing the interests of Pamkala men and boys over others. Now, this move is not only unfair, but also perpetuates the existing power dynamics that have led to systemic inequalities. It's essential to note that Trump's announcement is part of a broader pattern of behavior, where he's consistently pushed policies and rhetoric that cut off to his base, often at the expense of marginalized communities. The MAGA movement, which emerged during his 2016 presidential campaign, has been characterized by its nativist and populist ideology, often manifesting in discriminatory policies and rhetoric. Now, the lady also touched on the issue of hypocrisy, where Trump supporters are often quick to criticize policies that benefit marginalized communities, but are now silent on his proposal to provide reparations to Pamkala people. Now, this double standard is a stark reminder of the deep-seated biases and prejudices that exist within our society. Now, when we talk about reparations, the conversation about reparations for Black Americans has been ongoing for centuries, yet it's consistently met with resistance and dismissal. The idea of providing reparations to Black Americans dates back to the Civil War era, with General William Sherman's Special Field Order No. 15 in 1865, which promised 40 acres of land to formerly enslaved individuals. Now, despite this early attempt, the promise of reparations was never fully realized. In fact, after President Abraham Lincoln's unaliving, President Andrew Johnson reversed Field Order No. 15, returning land to former slave owners. Now, this set the tone for the lack of progress on reparations in the centuries that followed. Throughout the 20th century, various movements, organizations advocated for reparations, including the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s. However, these efforts were often met with resistance, and the conversation around reparations was frequently dismissed or marginalized. In recent years, we've seen the conversation around reparations gaining renewed momentum, with some presidential candidates and lawmakers proposing various forms of reparations such as individual payments, education and housing initiatives, and business grants. Despite this progress, the issue of reparations remains highly contentious, and many argue that it's a moral and economic imperative that's long overdue. As the Brookings Institution notes, the racial wealth gap was created by R-to-the-C policies. Federal intervention is needed to remove the R-to-C-ism that undergirds those policies. We have finally come to the end of the video, but what do my viewers have to say about this? Share your thoughts, your views in the comment section. Thank you for always watching, and see you in my next video as I bring you another interesting video.